let's talk about addictions. So maybe you've tried over and over to stop smoking, but you just can't seem to quit. Or, you're drinking too much and you feel just stuck and helpless to stop. Whatever the issue, when it comes to addiction, each of us will experience and struggle with it in different ways. The journey to a sustained recovery is highly individual, and some forms of treatment work better for some people than they do for others. Hi there, Leslie Hornsby here again. Welcome back to my channel, where I talk about life coaching and the brilliant cutting edge NLP techniques that can help you make a real improvement and change in your life. NLP is about leading a better, more fulfilled life by taking charge of your thinking, your emotions, and your behavior. And if you'd like to know more, please just click subscribe to get future videos on a regular basis. And if you think you'd like to try life coaching, and you want to have a chat about it, just get in touch with me by using the link below, and you can get access to a free, obligation-free telephone appointment. NLP is great for addiction. It can help for one with reducing stress, and a lot of stress comes from not being able to predict or address your changing emotional states. NLP increases your self-awareness and decreases the impact of anxiety on your behaviour, and it can shore up your confidence levels by helping you understand and control your decision-making process, which in turn helps increase your confidence over time. With each good decision comes a reaffirmation and self-belief, and so that relationship is then strengthened. And it's also effective in improving communication by focusing on clarity and interpretation, so that you can learn to get your point across and to understand others more thoroughly. Mastering these fundamental self-management skills in turn encompasses a host of smaller advantages which NLP can give you in life, ranging from greater emotional intelligence to resolving internal conflict and beating the need to procrastinate, overcome limiting beliefs, and learning to access your internal resources. The substantial benefits of neuro-linguistic programming for addiction stem from developing emotional strength. Addiction can make you feel helpless, and that feeling of hopelessness can undermine the steps that you take towards recovery. NLP helps you build resilience so you don't get emotionally hammered when caught in cycles of damaging behaviour. Addiction involves complex emotional reactions too, and NLP helps break down each behaviour into sort of digestible pieces so you can address the root cause and form a step-by-step plan to cement change. And it can be applied in any treatment program at any stage. Now, some people prefer to start with more traditional forms of counselling before transitioning into an NLP framework, whilst others prefer to start with a more formalised structure right away. So no surprise, the first thing that you have to make a decision to stop smoking, stop the habit. And that might sound obvious, but if you're not committed properly, if you're ambiguous or half-hearted about it, no treatment in the world is going to be able to help you. And it's also useful to understand and accept, particularly in the case of something like smoking, that it's a real threat to your health and mental well-being. There is no upside to this behaviour. Cigarettes are toxic. The chemicals in cigarette smoke are inhaled into the lungs, and from there they travel throughout your body, causing damage in all kinds of ways. Nicotine reaches your brain in about between 10 and 20 seconds after you've inhaled. It enters the bloodstream and is carried to every part of your body, including places like breast milk. Now, nicotine is also highly addictive and as difficult to stop as a substance like heroin. Carbon monoxide present in cigarette smoke binds the hemoglobin in your red blood cells, preventing them from carrying all the oxygen that you would normally really need. And this then can lead to symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning. There are also, of course, cancer-causing agents known as carcinogens in tobacco. These damage important genes that control the growth of cells so that they grow abnormally or reproduce too rapidly. Now, to date, more than 70 such cancer-causing chemicals have been identified in cigarette smoke. That's a lot of sobering stuff there, and that's not even the whole story. Now, whilst that sounds like a lot of scaremongering, it's appreciating how harmful smoking is to you that is going to help you, because it's worthwhile spending time properly understanding just how wise a move it's going to be to stop smoking, and I guarantee your body will thank you for it. Another strategy is to imagine yourself as a non-smoker in the future. What will that be like? And How are you going to feel? Are you going to feel healthier? And as an ex-smoker, I can tell you that that's something that will be palpably evident very quickly. Food will taste better. You'll stop worrying about increasing cost of cigarettes because it won't be something that you have to worry about anymore because you don't smoke. And finally, you can thumb your nose at all those doubters, you know the ones I'm talking about, who in the past raised their eyebrows in disbelief with their, yeah, we'll see expressions on their faces every time you vowed to give up smoking. Now, I've already said commitment is a big thing, and you have to want it. You have to want it for yourself and no one else. Another thing to watch for and plan for is your physical and mental brushes with the inevitable reaction that you have to self-deprivation. There are going to be episodes when you'll be beset with cravings and unpleasant feelings that are essentially your danger zones. And it's going to help you if you mentally prepare for these moments. When changing a habit, it's easy to dwell on the things you're going to miss, which only heightens your feelings of being deprived. Turn the tables on that thinking and concentrate on things that you're going to gain by not smoking instead. Rather than viewing your discomfort as a negative, try instead seeing it as evidence that you're doing the right thing, that the journey has started and you're going to soon be free from cigarettes. Now you're also going to be free of the cost, the damage to your health, other people's expressions of disgust when they smell cigarettes on you, on your clothes and on your breath. Also, rather than focusing on the foreverness of quitting smoking, remove that finality and concentrate on maybe a first step time frame. So chunk your goals to stop smoking down to what feels like a more doable thing. Maybe decide you'll stop for 3 weeks. And then the first few days, they're going to be generally the most challenging. And this is the time that you tell yourself you're smashing it and that every craving is evidence of that. And this positivity can encourage an endorphin rush, turning your reaction to it on its head so that as you beat back the desire to reach for a cigarette, you're going to feel good. And you get through 1 week, then you get through the second. And now you're counting days, not weeks, to your first target date. By the end of week 3, you're going to be in a really strong position to feel able to extend that time frame further. And by 6 months, you'll have reached a point where you're no longer thinking about cigarettes and actually no longer regarding yourself as a smoker. So effectively what I'm saying to you is you need to learn to enjoy the suffering because that means that you're doing the right thing. And as time goes on, you'll find that suffering does get less. The number of times you crave a cigarette in any given day will slow. First, it may be every minute of every day. Then a week later, it's a few times a day, then twice a day. And then you don't think about it for 2 days. And then there comes a time when you no longer notice that it's dominating your thoughts. This point is the real breakthrough and you should feel really good. So if you are a smoker trying to give up, you may well recognise some of the following. Now, typically, a smoker will be able to generally estimate the number of cigarettes that they have in any given day. And there are also times when a smoker associates the need for a cigarette specific context. So after a meal, maybe you're bored or you're feeling anxious or frustrated. These are the triggers and the reason that you're reaching for a cigarette. And they tend to be quite ritualistic in nature too. Now, of course, there are a multitude of triggers. For many smokers, it's all a symptom of trying to relieve stress. Many of us don't really take a lot of time during our day to provide ourselves with moments where we can relax. And it's useful to recognize these mechanisms as a signal that you need to de-stress and make time for that relaxation. It's also useful at this point to point out that there are 2 sides to giving up a habit like smoking. Firstly, there is the habit itself, and then there's the addiction. And weirdly, the addiction is not as nearly as hard to give up as the habit because you have to find a new behaviour to substitute in old situations. And a good strategy then, of course, to counter dropping into old habits unconsciously is to introduce a new desirable habit as a substitute, and thus you've changed your focus and making you consciously aware of what you're about to do. Now, what that habit might be is a highly individual choice. Many expert smokers find that they not only need a mental distraction, but also they need to find ways to get their hands busy. Cigarette smoking is, after all, quite an interactive thing to do, so this can be one of the biggest obstacles that you face. Now, I know of ex-smokers who have done, for example, star jumps when they felt they needed to reach for a cigarette. Some people will drink a glass of water or it could be anything, and it doesn't really matter, just as long as you're finding a substitute action that's not harmful. Another thing you might want to try considering is taking up a new hobby. So it doesn't have to be complicated or even long term, whether it's photography, creative writing, knitting, I really don't know, whatever you think would be good for you. The point is to give you something to turn to anytime you sense a sort of craving. Okay, so there are plenty of NLP techniques that we can bring to bear in helping you with an addiction. In this video, I'm going to walk you through just one of them, and it involves an element of hypnosis. So this technique is about changing your emotional state when you have a substance addiction or a behavioral addiction, and you need to overcome feelings of craving or obsessive thoughts. And for continuity's sake, I'm just going to stick with smoking as the addiction. So when working through this technique, it's probably best if you get yourself comfortable. So I would be sitting down, have your feet flat on the ground, in contact with the ground, with your hands resting naturally in your lap. And if you prefer, you can even just close your eyes as well. So when you relax, you feel centered. Just begin by thinking of 3 or 4 of the absolute worst experiences that you've had when you wished you weren't a smoker. So maybe a time when you were embarrassed. As an example, perhaps you were caught smoking when you promised you'd given up, or you said you were going to give up and then 5 minutes later you're having a cigarette. Now think of a time when you wish you had a choice to stop smoking. Now concentrate on the image of being embarrassed or angry with yourself for smoking. Take the image that's in your mind and fully immerse yourself as if you're back in that moment. See what you saw when you were there, hear what you heard, and then double the size of the image. Next, turn up the brightness of that image and then maybe the volume. Visualize this so that the unpleasantness of the situation literally begins to expand, and then swiftly move on to the next memory of embarrassment or discomfort and imagine that one twice the size. And if appropriate, hear the voices of those critical people even louder so that it resonates. And then notice that sensation surging into your body. Feel how it moves through you with that unpleasantness. The sensation can be anywhere in your body. It might be in your head or your shoulders, within your legs or around your waist or in your gut or your belly. Now, having established where those feelings start in your body, take the feeling and begin to spin it round and round, constantly revolving. Keep it spinning around and around until it begins to actually feel even more uncomfortable. Now move your thoughts to the third embarrassing or uncomfortable situation. Begin to double that feeling. Do this until the sensation is almost unbearable to you and that you'd never want to feel that way ever again. Now take a moment, consider the direction that the sensation is spinning. Is it clockwise? Is it counterclockwise? Does it move forward or backward? Or some people even describe it as zigzagging through their body. Once you have a firm picture of the sensation and its movement and colour, where it is in your body and how it moves, mentally place it outside your body. Imagine the craving moving from inside you, and for a moment just watch it from a distance, spinning and moving in the way that it does. Once it's at that distance, now reverse the direction of its movement. Be it spinning or zigzagging, either way, just change the direction and also change the colour. Don't resist or fight what instinctively you sense, just go with your first impression. Once the changes are firmly established, the colour and reverse spinning, begin to draw the whole feeling back towards you and allow it to just enter and rest back into the same place it was in your body originally. Although now it's moving in the opposite direction and it's coloured differently. Now I want you to focus on how that feels. How has it altered your craving? And if you've been successful, you'll find the craving has maybe dissipated or even disappeared and is actually replaced with a sense of well-being. Rest with that sensation for a moment and then slowly open your eyes. Take a deep breath. And if it's done properly, this can be a powerful NLP technique, especially for those dealing with addiction. By no means an entire recovery program in and of itself, especially for serious addictions to things like alcohol or drugs, for example. It will invariably mean engaging with a dedicated program of recovery. and be that attending a support group, meeting, or working with a therapist or a counsellor of some kind. This NLP technique is just another tool to add to your armoury when dealing with addiction. Well, I hope today's video has been useful. If you do have any experience working with NLP techniques of any kind, or you have any thoughts about it, and it'd be great to hear about it, so please do take a moment to share that with me and write some comments below. And if you'd like to explore more fully how you can change your life or the way you think, deal with mental blocks, addictions, limiting beliefs, and you think life coaching with NLP might be something you'd like to try, then all you have to do is to use the link that I've added below, and you can get in touch with me, make a 30-minute obligation-free appointment. And if you're interested in learning more about NLP generally, I've also added a free guide to 3 more NLP techniques, and there's a link down below for that as well, so you can download the PDF. Don't forget to hit subscribe to the YouTube channel to get more of these videos. As I say, I post each and every week, and I hope you can join me again next time for more on some of NLP's cutting-edge processes designed to help you lead a more fulfilling life. In the meantime, thanks again for joining me. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.